Thanks, Rich. Current alcoholic. What a lively little group this morning. Well, this morning here, not where some of you guys are. So I was thinking about, I was thinking about like, what do you want to talk about? And it's pretty obvious we got a lot of new people, right? So um, one of the things I try to start with is this, and I want you to listen really carefully what I'm going to say, because it never gets interpreted the way I say it. Well, I won't say never, but it always gets misinterpreted. I thank God that I'm not suffering from what's not happening anymore. I thank God that I'm not suffering from what's not happening anymore. Most of my suffering was stuff that wasn't happening. It was a narrative or a story in my head that I was that my head, well, I won't even say my head, I'll say the head was telling me. And what I mean by that is this, like, and I use just a simple example of like, let's just say I got fired from my job. And it triggers third column stuff. It hurt, threatens, or interferes with security, pocketbook. So when it triggers that, there's a reaction, not a response. There's a reaction. A response is very different. And that reaction, it shows up like this. I get in my car, I lost my job. I get in my car and my head says, oh, what are you going to do now? You're not going to be able to pay your bills. And then the more that story goes, it's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It picks up everything, it rolls over. And by the end of the by the end of the drive, when I get to the house, I've already got myself homeless and nothing's happened. That drive, that narrative drove me. I took a lot of actions based on that narrative. And now, I didn't have that when I was drinking. What I had when I was drinking was I had a sense of peace and ease and comfort. And it was temporary, but that was my medicine for my disease. My medicine was, well, Grey Goose I preferred, but I got to the cheaper stuff later on. But my medicine for that condition was drinking. And I'm one of the ones that believes you have to drink alcohol to be alcoholic. It's pretty hard to be an alcoholic if you never drank. So what I heard was, I was just talking to my sponsor, and we were talking about he's going to talk on the 11th step tonight, and he asked me a question, and we were talking about the part in 10 where it says continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, right? It doesn't say continue to listen. See, I was always listening. There was no ability to be separate from it and see it, just separate from it. There was no ability to do that. And in the big book, the guy read it in Spiritual Experience. He said, sorry, you guys. It says, let me find it real quick. He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life. That such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone. What often takes place in a few months could seldom be accomplished by years of self-discipline. With few exceptions, our members find they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource. It wasn't a belief system. It was the consciousness of that belief, which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Now, here's the part I want to read. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of a spiritual experience. See, this awareness that has the ability to watch rather than listen. And I think that's what the 12 steps do. It produces, the book says a sixth sense or an intuitive thought, or, my experience is the mind knows nothing about that. We hear in the program, you can't think your way into this, right? The mind knows nothing about that. Now, I can't talk about this thing except for in the sense that I'm talking about it, but I can give you an example. Here's what it sounds like from an intuitive place. Now, when it's commentary and it's just chatter in the head, you hear people say, don't go in that neighborhood, it's a dangerous place. It sounds like this. There's a huge difference. It has a resonance to it. And that's what I heard when I came to AA in 1979. Now, the next thing I want to say is I'm a successful failure here. I didn't get sober in 1979. I got sober in 1986, and then I drank again at almost 20 years sober. And I drank again at 20 years sober because of something Chuck C said in his book. And I'm going to quote it if I can. It says, the most baffling characteristic of alcoholism, both to the alcoholic and those who must deal with him, is the conflicts of sober reality become untenable. And we drink to preserve our sanity. That made total sense to me. So what was happening in 19 years was, metaphorically, when I came in, I had two balls to juggle. It was go to meetings and listen to my sponsor. Let's just say that. It was pretty easy. You just follow directions, right? Then I got to feeling pretty good, and I thought, well, I came up with some ideas of my own, and I ended up getting married, having kids, buying a house, starting a business, buying a boat, buying a truck, buying another truck. You kind of accumulate all these things. You're sober now. But what didn't happen was I was constantly dominated by, we call it fear here, but it wasn't fear. It was mental anxiety produced by this narrative in my head. And this narrative in my head, it's based on old ideas, what people have told me, how I've been raised, what the culture says. It's all of this. It's an accumulation of all this. And it's a conditioning that shapes the way I see the world. And what Don said to me when I started working with Don was, he said, look, here's the deal. He goes, if we talk about spirit, spirit is never out of harmony. There's nothing wrong with spirit. That's what makes it spirit. Or you could call it God, creative, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. He said, it's in perfect harmony all the time. He said, and you're out of harmony with that. You're out of balance. And he said, the 12 steps are 12, he said, gentle ways. I totally disagree with him on that. 12 gentle ways to bring you back in harmony with this principle of peace, serenity, love, whatever you come to with that. That's been my experience. Now, the one thing I want to say is, 19 years was not really failure. 19 years was what happens. I heard somebody say, I'm back from a relapse. So drinking isn't the relapse. Listen, drinking is not the relapse. It's proof of the relapse. The relapse happens sober. The insanity that precedes the first drink, that's where the relapse happens. Then proof of it shows up, glass in hand, and so I needed to find out when I got here what I was up against. In the old days, you couldn't go to a meeting till you went through the first 3 steps. Why? Because you didn't understand AA's perspective on alcoholism. And I didn't understand it either. What I thought was when I came in 1979 and I heard just don't drink, I couldn't do that. I could not pull that off, which separated me from you. And you were AA. And if I could just not drink, I wouldn't be powerless. See, that's where everybody hears this differently because everybody's in a different place with it. But I would leave the meeting and go sit in my car and drink. And what would the head tell me? The head would tell me things like, oh, you don't really want to get sober. Oh, you don't care. Or just things from guilt, remorse, self-pity, right? See, what was talking to me was the same voice that told me to go out and drink is the same voice that beat me up when I came back in. Same voice. Now, AA, I think the way AA says it is, this is the bondage of self. And we ask to be released from the bondage of self. Well, self is not a physical thing. It's a thought process in my book, in my understanding. It's a thought process. You could say it's a verb rather than a noun. And I was totally identified as this thought process. Now, there were moments, like Bill said in the book, moments of awe, wonder, who made all this? His grandfather's good-natured contempt. I could almost, he describes all these great experiences. Winchester Cathedral burst upon me, like he talks about these moments. But those moments were never sustainable on a daily basis until I drank again. And the reason I say that is because that drinking at 19 years surrendered me in a way I'd never been surrendered. I was always surrendering, which is just a way to mitigate and control and manage my disease. When I was surrendered, it was a very different experience. And so what I did is I came in and I did what all you guys are doing. I came in, I got a sponsor, I went to meetings, I got involved in the fellowship, my first sponsor got me involved in service right away. And, of course, the head tells you, oh, you don't have nothing to offer. You're new, you don't have nothing to offer. But he got me into meetings and leading meetings and picking up chairs and doing things. And I didn't really understand why back then. I understand now. And I love the way a friend of mine puts it. He says, well, what they did in the very beginning was, if I'm, let's say, Bill Swan, if I'm talking to Bill and Bill's got some situation he brings up and I'm talking to Bill, I'm invited to forget myself on purpose because I'm focused on Bill. That voice in the head is not talking to me. Bill is. And for a brief moment, I get separation from that self. Just a brief moment in the beginning. Now, I'm here to tell you, you can live from that place. And I'm here to tell you this, that is not believable. It is not believable. It has to be experienced. There's a huge difference. Because when I'm trying to believe something, I'm trying to believe it because I do not believe it. That's why I'm trying to believe it. And what I'm talking about is knowing. It's like, well, it's the difference between a black and white television set and color TV. That's what it is. Gnosis is one way they say it. Gnosis. It's a different type of knowledge. It's not intellectual. And we all have it. Every one of us has it, whether we think we do or not. We all have it. That great reality is within us. That higher understanding, however you want to say it, sixth sense, intuitive thought. I knew nothing about this when I came in. All I knew was what my head had been telling me for years and years and years. And long before I drank, I suffered from the exact nature of this thing. I remember I was thinking about this morning. I go to the beach in the morning and I sit on a wall. I do my little, it doesn't matter what I do, but I do my little thing with the 11 step. And I was thinking about, God, I used to go in homeroom at school. And if I was 5 minutes late, I wouldn't go in the class. Now, why? Because I knew when I walked in, everybody was looking at me. Now, that's not the case, but that's what my head was telling me. So I just skipped homeroom. I just didn't go. And I dealt with the consequences later. And that's pretty much how my life went. I just dealt with the consequences later. And, the inability, I say this, AA is not for people who can quit drinking. It's for people who cannot quit drinking. It's for people who cannot quit drinking. The whole point of integrating these principles in our life at some point is to be, like Koyas told me, he said, to be in harmony with what's happening, what's always been happening. And that means a sense of peace. I mean, if we read the promises are not a carrot on a string out in front of me to chase.
2-minute warning, Kurt.
The promises are a result of waking up to some degree to what's going on. It's very descriptive. In what manner? Well, I comprehend the word serenity. I know peace. I can look the world in the eye. I mean, if you just read the promises descriptively rather than prescriptively, it describes what the big book says in the 10th step. You entered the world of the spirit. Now, it's not like I ever left that world, but I was never consciously aware that I was in it. And it says that in our book too. It says the consciousness of this belief is sure to come to you. And an old friend of mine said, at some point in the program, because this is a big process, there's stage specific phases that I went through. And one of the things that he said was, at some point, the numbers have to come off the steps. And, I didn't understand that in the beginning, but what that meant was simply that I started living by these principles. If I made a mistake, I found the corrective measure, I apologized. It was just like integrating these principles, right? So That was missing at 19 years. I was busy making money. I was busy robbing Peter to pay Paul. I was, it was just, I was just trying to keep my head above water. And, in my mind, I'd worked the steps. I'd been a GSR, CSR. I'd done all the things you guys told me to do. And I wasn't getting the fruit on the tree. And that is why I drank, because I knew that the solution was alcohol for me. And that was quite a ride, quite a ride. And that was about 15 years ago. And so I pretty much grew up here. And, I got it. Everything I'm telling you guys was told to me. I didn't come up with anything, new. Part of that is I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful that you asked me to come.
And that's time, Kurt.
Okay, I'll wrap it
Thank
up. Yeah. So, and that's a result of this. There's a sense of gratitude, of reverence for life now that I didn't have before. I tried to kill myself 3 times. The problem was I wasn't trying to kill myself. I was trying to kill the self that was driving me, and I didn't know it. So thanks again for asking me to come, and thanks for listening, you guys.